This story, titled A Brother's Guilt, is one I've wrestled with for years. My name is Emily. I'm 31 years old, and I grew up in a small town in Indiana. This story isn't just about me, it's about my younger brother, Jason. He was 3 years younger than me, my partner in crime growing up, and the person who could always make me laugh, no matter how bad my day had been. Jason had this light about him, an energy that drew people in. He was the kind of person who could make friends anywhere, the kind who made you feel seen and important. But behind his infectious smile and easygoing nature, Jason carried a pain that no one, not even me, fully understood. Growing up, we were close, inseparable, really. We'd spend hours exploring the woods behind our house, building forts, and dreaming up adventures. Jason loved music, and he could pick up any instrument and make it sound like he'd been playing for years. I always believed he was destined for greatness, that his talent would take him far beyond the small town where we grew up. But things changed when Jason hit his teenage years. At first, it was subtle. He became quieter, more withdrawn. He stopped playing music as much, stopped joining me on our adventures. I thought it was just part of growing up, but looking back, I realize it was something much deeper. By the time Jason was 17, it was clear that something was wrong. He started hanging out with a different crowd, skipping school and coming home late or not at all. Our parents were worried, but Jason brushed off their concerns, insisting he was fine. I tried to talk to him, to figure out what was going on, but he shut me out. "You wouldn't understand, Em," he said one night, his voice heavy with frustration. "You've always had it together. You don't know what it's like to feel like this." I didn't know what this was, but I could see it was eating him alive. Things escalated quickly. Jason started experimenting with drugs, and it wasn't long before it became clear that this wasn't just a phase. Our parents tried everything, counseling, grounding him, even rehab, but nothing seemed to stick. Jason would get better for a while, and we'd start to believe he was turning a corner, only for him to spiral again. I felt helpless. I wanted to save him, to pull him out of the darkness he was drowning in, but no matter what I did, it wasn't enough. I'd stay up late at night, waiting for him to come home, my heart racing every time the phone rang, afraid it would be bad news. One night, Jason called me, his voice slurred and filled with despair. "I'm sorry, Em," he said. "I've messed everything up." "Jason," I said, my own voice trembling, "you can come back from this. We'll figure it out together. Just come home." But he didn't come home. He disappeared for 3 days, and when he finally showed up, he was a shell of the person I had grown up with. His eyes were dull, his body thin and frail. I wanted to scream, to shake him, to make him see what he was doing to himself and to us. But all I could do was hold him, my tears soaking his shirt as I whispered, "Please, Jason, please don't do this to yourself." For a while, it seemed like he was trying. He got a job, started playing music again, and even talked about going back to school. I let myself hope, really hope, that this time would be different. But addiction is relentless, and Jason's demons were stronger than his will to fight them. One night, I got the call I had been dreading. It was my mom, her voice shaking as she told me Jason had overdosed. I drove to the hospital in a daze, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly they ached. When I got there, the doctor told us Jason was in critical condition, but they were doing everything they could. I sat by his bedside for hours, holding his hand and begging him to wake up. "Please, Jason," I whispered. "I can't lose you." But he didn't wake up. Jason passed away that night, leaving a hole in my heart that I knew would never fully heal. The days and weeks that followed were a blur of grief and guilt. I replayed every conversation, every moment, wondering what I could have done differently. Why couldn't I save him? Why wasn't my love enough? I blamed myself for years, convinced that I had failed him. But as time passed, I began to realize that Jason's struggles weren't my fault. He was fighting a battle I couldn't fight for him, no matter how much I wanted to. Losing Jason changed me in ways I'm still trying to understand. In the months after his death, I struggled to find my footing. Grief has a way of pulling you under, of making the world feel muted and heavy. I went through the motions of life, work, errands, small talk. But inside, I was crumbling. What haunted me the most was the guilt. I kept asking myself the same questions. Could I have done more? Should I have pushed harder, been there more, understood him better? It felt like no matter how many people told me, it wasn't your fault, I couldn't believe it. But one day, while going through Jason's things, I found a notebook filled with his scribbled thoughts and lyrics. Jason loved to write, and his words often captured the emotions he couldn't say out loud. As I flipped through the pages, I came across something that stopped me in my tracks. In his messy handwriting, Jason had written, "I know they love me, but sometimes love doesn't feel like enough. I wish I could make them understand that this isn't about them. It's about me." Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. For years, I had carried the weight of his struggles as though they were mine to fix. But reading his words made me realize something. Jason's pain wasn't my fault, and it wasn't my responsibility to heal him. His struggles were his own, and while I could love him and support him, I couldn't save him from himself. That realization didn't erase the pain or the loss, but it helped me start to let go of the guilt that had been suffocating me. In the years since Jason's passing, I've worked hard to honor his memory in ways that feel meaningful. I started volunteering at a local organization that supports people struggling with addiction and their families. Sharing Jason's story with others has been both cathartic and impactful. It's a way to keep his memory alive, while helping others feel less alone in their own battles. One of the most powerful moments came when a young man approached me after a support group meeting. He told me that hearing about Jason had reminded him of his own brother, who he had nearly given up on. "Your story made me realize that I need to keep trying," he said. "Thank you for helping me see that there's still hope." His words stayed with me, a reminder that even in the midst of loss, there can be purpose. Music has also become a way for me to stay connected to Jason. I started learning to play the guitar, something he always wanted to teach me, but never got the chance to. Sitting with the instrument in my hands, strumming chords he would have loved, makes me feel like he's still with me in some small way. I also began hosting a yearly benefit concert in Jason's honor. Local musicians come together to perform, and all the proceeds go toward addiction recovery programs. The first year, I wasn't sure if anyone would show up, but the community came out in full force. Seeing people come together to celebrate Jason's love for music and to support a cause he would have cared about filled me with a sense of healing I hadn't thought possible. The guilt I once carried has softened into something else, an ache, a longing, but also a sense of acceptance. I've learned to forgive myself for not being able to save Jason, and I've learned to cherish the moments we did have together. There are days when the grief feels fresh, when I hear a song he loved or pass by a place we used to visit and feel the weight of his absence all over again. But there are also days when I can smile at the memories, at the way he lit up a room, at the laughter we shared. Jason's life, though far too short, was filled with beauty and love. And while I wish every day that he were still here, I know that his story, our story, has the power to make a difference. If you're listening to this and you've lost someone to addiction or struggled with guilt over not being able to save someone you love, I want you to know this. It's not your fault. Loving someone doesn't mean you can fix their pain, and their struggles aren't a reflection of your worth. What you can do is honor their memory, carry their love with you, and find ways to heal. Please share your thoughts or experiences in the comments. Let's create a space where we can support one another, share our stories, and remind each other that healing is possible, even in the face of unimaginable loss. If this story resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell for more stories of love, resilience, and hope. Together, we can break the stigma around addiction and loss and find strength in our shared experiences. Thank you for listening. And remember, even when we lose someone we love, their light never truly fades. It lives on in the memories we carry, in the lessons we learn, and in the love we continue to share.